Yeah.
I'm so excited. I am like just can't handle myself. I'm just so excited. Are you guys as excited as I am?
I don't think anyone can match that level of enthusiasm, Nate. So,
It's
but I'm
it'll be
close. I'm a close second.
That
Hey,
level
why
of
am I so
intensity
big?
does
I don't want
not,
to be this big. We need to do it this way. This looks good. Let's do it this way. This one's more fun. I was giving a tour of my house. That's why I was so big from before. Got my new house. I'm excited to be in it. Got my couch coming on tomorrow. Well, tomorrow, and got my table coming tomorrow. And life is okay. It's fun. Can
fantastic.
raise it and work.
What kind of table are you getting?
I'm getting a Predator 9 footer.
Oh, fantastic. Very cool.
I have a 7 foot valley in my house right now, which is useful for my area because everyone in my area plays on either Predator or not Predator, Diamond or Valley bar tables,
Right.
and that is unfortunately for Demetrius spilled over into his neck of the woods, so he doesn't get to play pool anymore either.
That's why I'm opening up the club on April 1. It's going to be 9 foot, you know, 9 foot diamonds, 4 1/4 pockets, and we've got a lot of people. If I was opening up a commercial pool hall that demanded like hundreds and hundreds and thousands of people coming in every week, then I don't know that I could support that on 9 foot tables. But for a private club where we just need 50 to 100 people, there's plenty of people in the Twin Cities that really are looking forward to having just one place they can go to that has really a lot of a good 9 foots. It seems like all of our pool halls have one good 9 footer, but anyway. So the point is that yeah, if as far as Wisconsin though, I think that you have a beautiful house, but it's a heck of a commute to Europe. So it's
Hey,
what are you gonna do?
that's true. I will be going to Europe twice this year, and it's going to be a long trip.
How many tables are you gonna have in your club, Demi?
I'm going to have 6 9 foot diamonds, and then we are going to put in 1 to 3 bar tables to start with. And then we have room to expand so that in 12 to 18 months, once we basically, I think at 6 tables, 6 9 foots, and 1 to 3 bar tables, I think we're going to cap out around 60 members. And then what we'll do once we get a waiting list for people, like once we get like 10, 20 people that want to get in, waiting to get in, then we'll probably take on the extra space. We can add another 3 9 footers and maybe a few more bar tables if we wanted to, for a total of like 8 to 10 9 footers and 4 to 6 bar tables, something like that as we expand.
Very cool.
So if somebody is in the Twin Cities area that listens to the show and doesn't know about this, how do they go about getting a membership?
So right now we haven't advertised anything, so we've just been doing word of mouth. We've got people that are kind of on a waiting list, so we're gonna take the people that have reached out to us directly before we advertise. We may not even need to advertise, so you could reach out to me directly, Demetrius Jelatis, and then the other thing is. For the people in Wisconsin, there's been a lot of people that I know would like to come train with me, but the boot camps don't fit into everybody's life. The money, the time commitment, even just the level of play to come and do 3 days of training isn't, I'm targeting a very small demographic. So I'd like to be able to help more people. So once we get these tables rolled out to where I can block off 2 3 tables for training, there are going to be some small groups that I do, and some where I'll be able to target different levels. So that'll open up the door to more intermediate level players. It'll also open up the door as far as lower price tags and shorter duration, so that for budget and time and skill, those are like the 3 requisites to come train with me. You've got to be at a certain level, have a certain amount of time and money to come train. And so I'm going to try to make my training available to more people, at least at the level that they're at and at the budget they're at for time and money. So that's one of the reasons I'm excited to open this. Is it'll be nice to have kind of a training facility. So
See, Rob, we send out messages to find out who's going to be on the show. You just got to message us, you clown. What are you doing?
Uh, well, I was busy.
how's it going, Rob?
Hey guys,
You look grumpy.
sorry,
Why are you grumpy, Rob?
sorry I'm late. Well, a little older than you guys, right? And in the last few weeks, some friends of mine have pool playing friends of mine. It's like they're all kicking off, and that's kind of been a little bit depressing for me. Uh,
Oh,
so
well,
Sorry to
you're
hear
with
that, Rob.
friends now, buddy.
yeah, we're here
Now,
now.
And I promise I'll be around for as long as my liver will hold up for my alcoholism. How's that? Well, with that out
I
of the
had
way,
some computer problems too. Have you guys? What happens is I'm interested about certain subjects, and I'll see something, and especially it happens on Facebook more than anything. And I'll click on that, and then all of a sudden, the screen will come up that'll warn me: do not turn my computer off, and call this number. And I can't do anything on the screen to make it change.
we'll make sure to call that number as fast as you can and give them your credit card information immediately.
Well, the first time it happened, because I'm kind of an idiot, I did that.
Was it Nate's phone number?
Correct.
How do you think I afforded my new house, Demetrius?
After about 10 minutes, I'm thinking, some of this information you're asking for, you already have it. Why would you ask me that? And then I thought, scam. This has got to be a scam.
I thought you were coming for me.
So that's been happening. So I haven't been available because of that too, because my PC's been gone.
I'll tell you what, man, it's detestable that I know that they're shutting stuff down, but I've actually anyway, I think Facebook makes a lot of money from advertisements from companies that are less than reputable, and it's like they are aware of this. And I'd like to say they're doing everything they can do to shut down on fraud and all this type of stuff, but there's so much money that they're bringing in from these companies that are passing themselves off as semi-legitimate. Well, everyone kind of understands what's going on. It's kind of gross, but anyway.
It's too bad. So I took my PC to the doctor, and he took a couple of days and cleaned it up and did that kind of stuff. But when they say don't turn your computer off, that's the first thing you need to do.
Yeah. So
and reboot it first of all.
I think the first thing that you need to do is not click on those links. I think that's probably the first thing.
One of them was like, I could have watched this mongoose eat a snake.
I mean that's hard to argue with.
Want to see that?
I love watching animals attacking other animals. I get caught up in these rabbit holes every year. My kids will ask me, "Dad, did you spend another hour watching animals attacking other animals?" I'm like, yeah, I kind of,
Rob, I need to introduce you to this fantastic thing called YouTube, where you don't have to worry about clicking bad links. You could just go there and search whatever you want to see, and pretty good chance it's there, especially if it's a cat video.
Yes, I did see a raccoon hugging a baby deer, a fawn, today. And that was really nice.
This is riveting podcast.
So I'm going to pivot here because we want to talk about this Predator event. And
yes,
Randy has made a comment about the racks, and I don't know if there's a particular format you want to go, but I have I'm opinionated. This is the only thing I have an opinion on with this whole event. Do you mind if I just jump in on this question or on this comment?
I was going to ask the question. So
okay, so here's the thing. I'll preface this by saying we've played some virtual competitions. Nate, I actually just played a virtual competition, and it was a 9-ball, and it was pattern racking allowed, one on the spot, magic rack, like the softest rules you can use, right? And it was boring. And so I don't want to even make it sound like if I told you how I did, it would sound like a brag. But really, I'm not bragging, because what happened is I looked back at the video of like my performance, and if you were to measure, I mean, the wing ball went every time. I'm playing basically 8-ball or 7-ball because I don't need to break that hard. I'm playing 8 or 7-ball with the balls wide open. And if you looked at the number of balls per rack, you'd say, 7 or 8 balls. But that's not really how I count racks. I look at how much difficulty is there per rack, like how many tough shots, how many tough transitions. And if you looked, it's like there was almost no work to be done. All the balls were kind of open and led to the next. And it was like, I ran out a bunch, but I felt dirty. And when I watch top players playing 10-ball with a template rack, it's equally silly sometimes. You don't always make all the balls, but boy, you get open racks, you get good layouts, you get good distribution, and it's like watching elite players run through 7 and 8, 9 balls with open balls. It's just there's very minimal. It's not a lot of dry breaks, not a lot of safety play compared to wood racks. And so here's my thought. When you go to the wood rack, you eliminate all that, and you can't check the racks, and sometimes there's bad racks. You get dry breaks, you get uneven distribution, you get clusters, you get safeties, you get problems, you get breakouts. And I think that, yes, what you could do is you could go through and do what some people on Facebook do, which is they go through and they find like the 2 slug racks in the tournament where the balls were racked terrible and they don't open up and be like, well, this doesn't work. But that's, a handful of breaks out of hundreds and hundreds of break shots. And it's like I could easily go through these other tournaments with the template racks and point out all these breaks of just 3 and 4 balls with everything in the same spot every time, where you can't. It's just watching paint dry to watch these guys run open balls on new cloth. And so my opinion is I'll take the occasional slug rack if it means that we get to actually play real pool after the break and see variety and adversity and challenging racks and challenging moving games and where the outcome is going to be in doubt about the break. I think it's the best thing in 10 ball I've seen. So that's my opinion.
Well, especially if you're dealing with these short races that Predator does. You got winter breaks, race to 4, and now you're going to have a template? So
it won't work.
I'm on board with that, Demetrius, with that kind of thinking for sure, for that reason. Now, if it was alternate break and you had a template, that would help a little bit. But still, the balls do go. If you hit them the same way, they go in the same place every time.
Yeah.
And you're not guaranteed that with the human being using a wood or plastic rack, whatever kind of rack it is. A person is doing it. And we're just people. We're going to make little mistakes here and there. These guys do the best they can racking those balls. All of them. They check them. But even with that, it's not the same. You never get that same rack twice. Not like a template. Just don't happen.
Even when they do tap the tables, it doesn't.
No,
by the end of the event.
If you're in a big event like this, you really kind of want to show your stuff and break and run racks. And if you can't do that because the person you're racking the balls for you is every other rack isn't really the greatest. Now, that doesn't happen every other rack. But, I mean, on a bad day, if the person racking is.
It's like a reverse 9-ball break. In 9-ball, once in a while, something will kick the 9-ball in the pocket. It's like, something good happened.
Look what
happened. Here it's like the reverse. Once in a while.
Lost this event because of a break.
Yeah.
The 2 balls in the middle of the table, gets kicked in the corner, and he's done.
Yeah, and so it's just another event. Like once in a while, and it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun, man. Once in a while, they get down a break, and the cue ball leaps back and stops, and like 3 balls open up, and everyone's like, it's just kind of like, hey, man, it can happen. It's like a skid. Yeah, exactly. Just take it for what it is. I mean, of course, they should try to get good racks.
In that final match, there was one rack that was just terrible loose, and they balls. I don't even think 3 balls hit a rail. It was just a mess on one side of the table. But the commentators turned that around, and they said, hey, now look at what we got here. And they used that to benefit the fan base who was watching this match. These guys are going to have to now use some other methods to win this rack and play through this. So, yeah, Demetrius, I totally agree with that. Evaluation of,
was it Sanjin? I think you're talking about, was it the Sanjin break? I think that's where obviously the right side of the rack was not connected. The head ball was only connected to the left wing ball, and all of the force went down the left line of the table, and nothing went into the right side of the rack at all. And then, at insult to injury, the ball that does escape out of the stack goes 4 cushions and goes right back into the rest of the balls too. So you have all 10 balls. Yeah. You have all 10 balls.
You can hear that too, when you hit those
like one quadrant of the table. It's
kind of that.
There was one rack, I think, that Billy broke that I commented. I was like, well, which one is his pocket?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was bad. I mean, it was bad. It's not. I agree that the premise behind wanting to use a triangle rack for this format fits, but it's embarrassing, especially with that many eyes to see racks.
Yeah, if you're the referee, because it's really you're not going to be the one that has to look at what you just did.
And the players are going to be patient to a point, and then eventually somebody's going to go on tilt and say, you cost me a set or whatever.
You see,
that is it.
The players are moving where they break from. And when that happens, that they're just not comfortable with.
I can tell you definitively that the consensus break in this format is a reaction to the volatility in the results they're getting from the rack and from the breaking situation. Everybody's breaking defensively from the rail for the most part, because they know that it gives them the best chance to at least have a say in moving competition if the balls don't open properly. If this was a format where all the balls are touching, they're going to break for the middle and attack the break and use it to
there was one player breaking,
but that's not happening.
making the second ball in the rack in the side pocket almost every time they broke.
Consider any consistency anomalous in this format. Any idea that
Or
you have a
stupidity.
preconceived level of consistency of outcome on the break, completely anomalous. You have to just assume you're going to get a bad rack every time.
Well,
and target the one on
Yeah.
the side and break and play for a defensive maneuvering situation like Demi was talking about. And whatever happens.
Yeah, I like what Raymond's saying.
But
They're
any-
choosing breaks where they're going to scratch less. They're going to lose the cue. They're going to give themselves a chance to make the one because that's the only ball that you can even somewhat predict. And then instead of playing like all out offense where we know we're going to break in balls, so let's just try to control the one and string racks. It's like how do we avoid scratching? How do we kind of manage our whole range of possible outcomes with this rack that we're going to get? Yeah, I like that's interesting, Ray. So thanks for sharing. And then
the flow. The entire flow chart has been shifted this direction as a response to it's too painful to break them good, quote unquote, into a bad rack, not have the balls track in the direction that they're supposed to track when the balls are touching, and leave your opponent a cupcake out. In a short race format, it's too painful. So you're giving up free innings. And at this level, you have maybe 1 inning, 1 to 3 innings, depending on how good your opponent plays, and then you're toast. So to minimize that, people break from the rail, try and target the one, and play from there. That's just it.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, as far as I do see what you're saying, Ray, and I do ultimately side on the Demetrius side of things. So, I mean, you end up catching 1, maybe 2, maybe 3 racks where it's obviously terrible and the ball should have never been racked the way that they were. But how many racks are there in this tournament? Let's say 95% of them are good enough. I would rather attack the 5% than, and that comes down to, you either got to tap the tables more accurately, which I've seen them do. There's probably a tool that they could ultimately end up coming up with, like a magic rack or something like that just has bigger holes.
I cashed in this event last year. I played in it and I cashed in it, and I was breaking hard from the middle. And thankfully, the majority of my breaks and racks were done well. So I got lucky. But there's a rotation of referees that'll area rack for like 4 or 5 tables. So it was fine for me. You know what I mean? But after this tournament, I switched to breaking from the cushion. And that was just out of percentages, realizing that eventually it's going to cost me matches, and the break never cost me, at least in the the 2 or 3 events I played last year. I still enjoy playing the format. I was complimentary to the referees who are there. They're doing a thankless job. They get a lot of heat put on them all the time, constantly. They're just bending over, doing very laborious work for hours on end with no gratitude. Whenever I walk onto the floor, I say thank you for your time, thank you, and I just make it a point to say thank you for being there and doing that work. And then
hopefully that gets
maybe that's why
better racks.
Maybe that's why I had some good racks. Yeah, you never know. They're like, oh, this guy's not up my butt, and I don't blame them either, because I understand this is inherently built into the volatility of hand
That's
racking.
right.
And they're doing it over and over and over again. There's going to be a human error.
Do you think anybody ever tips the refs?
I was just going to say, Rob, I'm a believer in incentives. What if they had some kind of bonus for the ref that had the most balls per break on average or something like that, or the most break and runs? Like the ref that gave the best racks gets a little something. But anyway, I wanted to respond. Little Chris, hey, Chris, he just said something about 95% of the racks are good, but should be good with 5% that cost a finalist a match. And I have 2 quick comments on that. One, we can only say that costs them the match if we have the expectation that every rack breaks perfectly. And so once we let go of that expectation and just say there is volatility, that's part of the adversity that we're scrambling with, is some uncertainty in this game, and that you have to play good enough not to get to a spot where one break can make or break you then, or deal with it the best you can if that happens. So number one is, it's a premise that I'm not even sure I agree with, is that rack costs them the match, because I just feel like there's some luck and pool, like we talked about. But the other part is we have to always compare it. What's the alternative? And if the alternative is 1 in 20 racks, somebody gets really burned by a bad rack, versus the alternative being we're watching people run 4-packs off the break without ever having a tough transition and the other guy getting out of their chair. I would snap call on the 1 in 20 racks being bad. For sure it's better in my opinion. Yeah.
Well, I think that there's other things that you could do too. Like you can either accept that 5% are bad and that's just what it's going to be, or you can start attacking that 5% and see if you can get it down to 3%. When I've seen them when they tap the racks, what they do is they put the balls in the rack in the triangle and they push it up, and then they have one ref that just holds it there tight, and then the other ref takes a ball and taps all the way around on all 10 balls. And I think there's got to be significantly better options than that. I mean, at the end of the day, there's probably some sort of template like a magic rack or something like that where they had like the little triangles, right? But maybe the triangles just need to be opened up a little bit bigger to hold themselves in place. And maybe you can use some sort of template to actually help tap the rack so it's more accurate. Maybe that's a thing. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But there's got to be a better way to prepare the tables to attack that 5% as opposed to.
Yeah, and there's always going to be some fine tuning that could occur, right? I'm not saying this is perfect or that they couldn't make any adjustments, but what I am saying is I think it's easy for people to watch one slug rack on a video and then be like, oh, this doesn't work. That's stupid. Whereas they don't really see how stupid it is to watch a bunch of 4-packs where they're making the same 3 balls in the same 3 pockets and the one's tracking in front of the corner and the other guy doesn't get to shoot. I just think that we have to kind of look at the big picture here and say, there's pros and cons. That's my only point. And I just want people to look past just that initial knee-jerk reaction that this idea doesn't work. That's all.
Well, there's a lot of, the same thing kind of goes for golf, right? The golfers inherently want the course to be as easy as possible. And the people in charge of the PGA events or whatever, live events there are now, their job is not to make the course easy. Their job is to challenge the golfers and make it as entertaining as possible. I think that a slug rack, and you get to see them moving back and forth 7, 8, 9, 10 innings each, where they're playing safety battles on basically every other shot because there's no run out. Maybe I think that's more entertaining than watching somebody break and run a 4-pack when it's a race to 4 to begin with. You throw the template out there. I mean, maybe I'm a little bit high on this, but it wouldn't surprise me a bit if there was with a template 2 to 3 packs almost matchly. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me a bit if there was on average a 3-pack.
You would see sets run out. You would see 1 inning. There would be the potential for a 1 inning match. 100%, because you could lose the lag, the guy breaks dry, and you run the set out both times, and you're done.
Both times.
That could happen with a guy like Shane or Federer. Federer has done it. Federer's run up 7 or 8 and out in match play. Kachi's done 10 or 8 or 9 and out in match play on YouTube. So it's not like it's
can break once and that's it in a match.
Done. So you could lose the lag, the guy breaks and scratches or breaks dry, you run out, you can break and run both sets, and the match is over. Congratulations. Have a nice day. Nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that.
So especially in a tournament like this, because the tournament cloth is always pristine. It's always going to be really slippery because, I mean, I'm sure they're probably replacing the cloth right now for the Predator World 10 ball. So it's always going to have that slippery conditions. The balls are always going to be sliding in off the break. Even, you get down to the finals, there's just not that many racks played on these tables. And, it's always going to be pretty slippery. You're going to be able to make some balls on the break.
I will still rib the referees for throwing up slug wrecks. Like, you're just going to have to, right? You got to keep them honest and keep them wanting to. But John Lehman gets up there and throws up a mud rack and builds a building with it. Like, we're going to let him know. That's it. That's fans being good fans,
That's
but
right.
You got a rule that if only 2 balls hit a rail and these guys are breaking hard, you got to re-rack them balls. You can't accept that.
Did he not hit him good? Like, no, he's a professional player. He hit him great.
He hit him good.
He got hit harder than he could possibly hit that rack.
The other thing I like about the rack that creates kind of a mess afterwards, no matter how you hit them, is not that I'm a fan of jumping, but as a fan, I'm seeing a lot more jump shots in these races to 4 with a human being racking the balls. I'm seeing that jump cue coming out a lot. So you makes
me happy.
Yeah, you get to test. You get to see what these players, how far they've come with that technique of their jumping, and some are better at it than others. And you can see that. I saw a couple of matches won because of this guy's prowess in jumping the balls.
I think the thing I really like about this format, especially as it matures, I like the the addition of this third set, but I think it only heightens the importance of every inning.
Yep.
Every inning is extremely consequential. There are certain situations where somebody's shooting a 9-ball or a 10-ball, and you're sweating it because if they make the 10-ball, it goes to a third set. If they miss the 10-ball, the match is over.
Yeah.
It's that consequential.
Oh yeah.
To me, that's beautiful. That's the closest.
We're not seeing as many shootouts either.
This is the closest we've gotten to tennis, and I think tennis has like the best dynamic scoring system.
Pretty nice.
Between two competitors that you can have. This is the closest we've gotten to that feeling where it's like, oh, it's match point. And then all of a sudden you come back and it's like, oh, we're going to the fifth set. And then, it goes to a shootout or a tiebreak or whatever. Like, that's dynamic. That's compelling watching.
Yeah.
Where like that ball, you better not miscue. You better not think loose foot, anything. You got to make that ball. And then you get to go to a third set. And then you get to because the other guy sitting down is feeling it in the chair too. It's like, crap, and all of a sudden you let them off, you know what I mean? Or like they're like, now the pressure's tripled on them, you know what I mean? And you got to reset. It's like, that's awesome. That's sport. That's really cool. So this is the only format that we have in professional pool that gets anywhere close to that.
Yeah, I'm so glad they did that too. Added that set.
I agree. I think the new format is significantly better for the players. Is it better for the viewers? I think if you have too many shootouts, I think it cheapens it a little bit.
Yeah,
and because what we're finding out basically by the end of this event is you're basically playing every single match to get to a shootout. I mean, 70, 80, I don't know that's the numbers on this, but it just seems like 80% of the matches that happen after the third round are all going to shootouts. So you're basically to the point where you're like, all right, well, let's get through the icky beginning parts of
might as well shoot out from the beginning.
Yeah, and then it's basically like, all right, let's get through this initial round, and then let's just mentally start preparing for the shootout after the first set. Basically, it's like all of these sets basically go to a shootout, and then I think that cheapens the idea of the shootout. I think the shootout should be a little bit more. I don't want to say this it should have a little bit of prestige to it. It should have like a little magic to it, right? And if you have it every single time, it just doesn't do it as much for me. So I like the idea of having that third set where they play that a little bit, and then if it gets to that point, it's the shootout. I like
the possibility of a possible scratch in the shootout too, which did happen.
We saw it
last event. I mean, it could have been tied real easy because of that. He makes the ball and scratches 2 rails in the corner.
I do like my favorite part about the scratch, I guess, is region by region. It seems like they scratch in different pockets. The Europeans, if they're going to scratch, they scratch 3 cushions into the side pocket. The Filipinos, if they're going to scratch, they scratch 2 cushions. Or, I've seen some of the players really ramp up and hit it. Some of them actually, I've seen a 4-rail scratch. And then the Americans, if they scratch, they end up scratching in like the right middle pocket or something like whatever the same. It's
like
just
one rail
funny
in the corner or something. Yeah.
It's different than the different regions. It's like, it's just funny how the different regions around the world actually scratch in different pockets. I find that.
Do you have to go for the cut? What would happen if somebody just got up and started banging the ball one rail and just stuck their cue ball, just steered?
Well, it's got to go into that pocket. So you can 4-rail.
What if you Z'd it? Yeah, if you Z it, that'd be pretty cool.
Just ability to start 2-railing it right in the
corner.
Yeah.
I actually don't know if the Z bank on those tables is possible.
Yeah, maybe not.
And I mean, the speed that you need to hit it at to get it to those 2 cushions.
No, but he could 2-rail it.
I don't know if you can.
Short rail, yeah.
Oh, short rail, yeah, sure. I don't know that you can do the long rail twice though. I don't know that.
On that shot,
or what if you 5-rail kicked really long so the cue ball came through the rack and cut the ball in?
I'm okay with that.
All right.
I mean that's a power move.
Or some kind of timing shot.
That's totally to a certain.
What if you feathered it with a little inside, chipped the ball, cut it straight into the side rail, and zigzagged your cue ball and timed it in? Okay, we better change the subject. I could think of the crazy anyway.
It sounds like this is like a new Demetrius. I know what you're doing for the next 2 weeks. You're just going to.
I have a lot of spare time, man. I like to practice my timing shots sometimes.
Yeah, that's always good. So I guess we can actually talk about the event.
3 cushion timing shots.
I like it.
We can talk about the I don't know. Let's talk about the men's first because I think that's a slightly more interesting.
World Cup 3 cushion World Cup going on in Vegas right now.
Well, we'll talk about that
And-
after. How's that? We'll talk about that after
Sure.
this. So I think the men's a little bit more interesting only because Wiktor Zieliński is now the back-to-back champion. This seems to be his event. And of course, last year it was a much more interesting story because literally the night before he won the title last year, him, Konrad Justishin, Mieszko Fortunski, they were all robbed in their hotel rooms, which was a little interesting.
Oh, I remember that.
As far as I know, that did not happen this year, but Wiktor Zieliński still wins. So I guess at the end of the day, seems all right.
It's impressive, man.
Very.
Sanjin Pelovanovic, again, he just doesn't. He keeps getting some pretty deep runs. He just does not quite have. I think he did win a European Championship last year.
They
If I'm not
said
mistaken.
he was 8-time junior champion.
Sanjin.
Yeah, he's won 8 junior championships.
I mean, depending on what the junior championships show, I'm sure. I mean, he's a great player. I mean, he's been knocking on the door of being an elite European player now for probably a year and a half. Just outside of the, kind of just outside of like the Wiktor Zielinskis and Joshua Fillers and Albin Ocean. He's not quite at that level yet, but he's I think right around now. He's right around that Eklund Kachi type of David Al-Qaidi category. So
Who do you think would win if you take the 3 best players from Poland, 3 best players from Austria, and the 3 best players from Spain? Who would win that?
Austria.
Who?
Probably right now Austria, just because Albin and Mario are probably A1. Mario's like on the verge of A1 tier. He's had a lot of really deep runs and a lot of good experience in kind of like high event pressure situations and playing rotation great. And Albin is still probably top 5-6 players in the world. So it's hard to bet against that. I think as a pool of talent, Poland is deeper. After those first 2 positions,
if it's anything 5 or more, Poland wins.
FSR and David, yeah. If it's FSR and David, you're doing 3-man team, like what Nate's saying. That's close because FSR is like the top player in the world.
Jose Alberto Delgado is a great, and Jonas
too.
And Jonas
yeah,
right
Jonas,
now.
Jonas, like yeah, but
there's a drop off.
But Poland has like 7 guys that are there, like right there. Daniel Maciel was a semifinalist in this event. It could have been an all-Poland final. And the kid is getting better. Nobody talks about him, but the kid has had a really solid
He was my pick
last few months.
He was my pick for the World 9 ball.
Very impressive. Yeah, like the kid is really great. Wiktor, I think the better player won the event. He's I think a better all-around player than Sanjin is. His temp, I love his temperament. He can go through an event, have heartbreaking losses, and like stay composed. You know what I mean? Which to me speaks to his character at a profound level. The kid is ready to win because he knows how to manage his losses. And I think that's more than can be said for a lot of like so-called top tier professionals that want to get there, but they haven't learned that yet. I've seen some Q testing at different events, you know what I mean? Structural integrity tests in reactions to losses that I think is kind of telling. But I mean, Wiktor takes it on the chin. He understands it's part of the process, and he gets back up there, does it again. And the fact that he's won this event now back to back in these fields is just awesome.
When you talk about skills, really great. I mean, striking is A1, but I think that his biggest competitive edge might just be the fire in his belly. Is there anybody that is hungrier than he is? I mean, I don't know. If you had to just measure desire.
I just had lunch.
Yeah, fair enough.
I just had lunch.
But I don't know that anyone has more desire.
I'm pretty hungry.
Yeah.
Okay, I switched to desire.
The young Syrian players certainly looked like he had some desire.
He looked like he was having fun. He looked like he was on like a boys' weekend away or something like that when he was playing.
Really?
So I guess we can look at the.
I'll tell you what, desire shows up in 2 ways though. One way you can measure desire is during the event. Who's ready to walk through walls to get it and who's willing to shake off those losses, like Raymond's saying. But the other way that desire shows up is when you don't see it, which is, do they want it enough to where the months leading up to that tournament, they're putting in the work they need to do to develop themselves to the level where they actually can win it. Because showing up unprepared and then wanting it doesn't do you any good. And I think Wiktor is like, obviously he wants it while he's playing as much as anybody. But it's clear for him to have gotten to that level as young as he is and be striking the way he is and be as prepared as he is to actually do it. Like that desire doesn't waver. It's not like a seasonal desire where, now that we're in competition, the adrenaline's flowing, I want to win. It's like that. I feel like he burns nonstop throughout the year. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Probably.
I guess looking at the rest of this tournament, I think we should take a second to talk about Dong. I mean, the Vietnamese player, he kind of came out of nowhere a little bit, and he has been having some really deep runs. And
oh yeah,
I'll tell you what, Shane
like
Van Boning has
I
no
would say-
chance apparently.
No, it's not that. It's a very close match. I think Duong is a professional. He's a top tier player, somebody that maybe we don't know of, but we're getting to know on a higher. He impressed me the most of any player I watched at the U.S. Open this past year, and he succumbed to like some fatigue on the last day to qualify for the final batch of rounds. Otherwise, he would have been a threat to go deep there too. I think the only weakness that he's shown in this event is the shootout. It's obviously something that he's not prepared. Because he gets down and hits the balls, I think, the wrong way every time. And he's kind of shown some frustration a little bit. The only time I've seen, like, it's very subtle, but I've noticed, like, he's just kind of, like, stubborn in his approach, hasn't kind of modified his stroke to accommodate the shootout ball. And that the two matches I've seen him lose were in the shootout. But he got to a position where he could win. So I think if he just takes some time to prepare the shootout.
If you're his coach, hang on, Rob, I'm sorry. If you're his coach, Raymond, what would you tell him to adjust on that shootout shot? I'm interested.
Yeah, I'm playing for a half ball.
Right.
I'm playing for a rolling ball shot and let him just deliver the cue in the corner and going deep in the corner and hitting the ball awful. And so it's like.
Is he using like low outside? Is he trying to go two rails?
He's stunning the ball, pure stun low and going too deep and hitting the ball just terrible. It's all deflection issues that he's dealing with. And he has a long cue too. So that compounds the deflection stuff. Stay center ball, stay clean, roll the ball in. You're going to beat everybody. So like enough. Like if you keep doing this, it's because you're not being you're not introspective enough to know what's causing your error, and you're just going to do it until you're like, okay, maybe now I should change because it hurts enough, So it just depends on how he wants to learn. But if I'm him, I'm lining up a half ball, rolling the ball in every single time, a million times in a row, and take my chances from there, because he can obviously deliver the ball straight and with authority under pressure, and he's done that over and over and over again in match play. But he's shooting the wrong shot for his stroke type. In these situations, it's cost him both shootouts the same way. Like he's not competitive in shootouts. Like if I played him in shootouts, I'd have confidence in beating him if I got to a shootout.
I think it's interesting how, when we're talking about like these types of shots, how different shots, there's certain preferences as to how you hit them. And so some people, they really like if you're shooting that money ball out of the rack area, maybe not from the deep part of the kitchen, but I understand, like, for many years, I would use a low outside and stun that ball in and come two rails deep, wrap around that corner tight. But when you have that much distance, the extra cue speed required to keep your ball sliding, and just kind of there's a certain distance at which that kind of breaks down, and it's no longer the correct way to shoot it. But there's just preferences, and it's hard. There's a lot of times you got to have a cinch way you like to play certain shots, and it's one of the hardest parts about pool is when you have to shoot shots with roll or with spins or with speeds that you don't really like for the angle you have. And you just have to get used to it, I guess. That
to me screams a player who plays in the pool room and doesn't play enough on these tournament conditions. And that's it. That's what it tells me, is that he's used to, swinging the cue ball around and on a dirty high friction table where you're not getting a lot of flex and swerve in your cue ball. Sure, do whatever you want. But in these conditions where it's glassy, it's slidey, and you're conducive to deflection, just roll a ball. Don't compound your errors and make it harder. I mean, the Filipinos do it the same way, and sometimes they look great.
They do. Yeah.
Sometimes they look like they're unprepared and they don't know what they're doing. Like Roland Garcia has looked really spotty. I beat Roland Garcia last year in Michigan in a shootout. He looked like he didn't know what he was doing, and then afterwards he switched and kind of started, rolling his ball more and changing his position and trying to find a different spot. But he was kind of imitating Carlo Beato, because Carlo likes to whip the ball around. But Carlo's a different ball pocketing machine than like 99% of the people alive. You know what I mean? So he has a different threshold.
It is really interesting. So when I practice, there are times I don't do this every practice session, but there's times when I'll have a run, like if I'm playing and a run comes up that I find interesting, like I'm not sure what to do or it's laying awkward and I'm just not real. Sometimes I'll take a picture of it and then later on I'll set those balls up again and try different ways and different things. And because there's something about like finding, in my opinion, like the right way through the balls where you take a rack that looked almost unrunnable and find a way to kind of get through them to where it's almost repeatable. And so that's satisfying, but there's a problem with that. And actually, my buddy Jesse, told me, he says, the only problem with that is if you play the run out again and again, you can learn that shot at that angle on that table. And so you can get it to where you can make the control good enough to maybe run them out a certain way. But if you're playing on a table you're uncomfortable with under heat, you don't really know how the rails are going to react that time, or there's any doubt, the percentages change when you only get one shot and you're not used to the way the balls react. So you might play, so you can't just play the rack 20 times and then say, well, this is the right pattern now. It's like, no, you got to find the pattern that works the first time as much as possible. And so, yeah, when you're on slidey new equipment with rails and the lengthen and the way the balls, like you're saying, they deflect, but they don't curve back and everything's a little uncomfortable. You have to adjust it changes the percentages. It's like you're saying, it's a lack of experience in those conditions.
Even with experience, a shock to your system alone.
It's hard, man. It's hard.
Yep. Well, I guess, I mean, he kind of came out of nowhere, and he's been beaten up on Shane, which is, of course, as an American, you kind of see that, and somebody coming out of nowhere and kind of beating up on Shane. I think he's beat him 3 times now in the last.
Well, he got lucky the last time because Shane got unlucky.
Luck is the residue.
I'll tell you this, Rob. When I get lucky against Shane, I lose by less. So you know what I mean.
Yeah, Shane finally broke from the rail in the last part. He squatted the cue ball, then got kicked in the corner.
And he's running that rack. He's getting out of that.
Yeah, that happened. But, it took him long enough to switch.
A few times in tournaments and just sucks it up.
It's going to go that way.
Especially when you have to break. I mean, if he had the template rack, could break from where he's used to breaking and know where every single ball's going to go and never scratch. That's a whole new thing. We talked about all that, though. But anyhow, now can I mention the World Cup tournament?
Well, can we finish out with the rest of them?
Yeah. I kind of want to talk about the women's.
Go ahead.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah. So,
going on. Well, is there anything that you wanted to discuss specifically about the women's event?
The champion, Seoa, is her name, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Korean girl. I was watching her play, and there were certain times she hit the ball that reminded me a lot of Ga-Young Kim in her kind of approach and certain strokes. Not the same tempo or style per se of like Ga-Young was very aggressive and like kind of quicker place player, but just certain cue deliveries that felt very informed. I don't know if it's like a Korean kind of like disposition and stuff because they have a huge background in carom. But I was very impressed with her ball striking and her temperament and composure. And I mean, she got up there and won the tournament. And like in the matches that I watched her play, she looked like she was the best player. You know what I mean? And had a really great event. So I was just impressed to see another top woman coming out of Asian cue sports, you know what I mean? And kind of making a debut and playing really well. So, yeah.
They replayed that shot a couple times on that 6 ball she had. It was kind of a forced follow shot up in the corner where she goes 2 rails, then all the way back down the table for that 7 ball. That one struck pretty darn sporty.
Yeah, very clean. Very clean.
Very clean. Yeah, congratulations to her. What a great tournament for her.
Yeah.
And the person, the gal she played in the finals was no slouch. I mean, wow. They can handle that cue stick. It's fun to watch.
Yep. Well, she took 3rd in the world 9 ball. So, I mean, she obviously can play. Gets her first big victory here. Silviana Liu and Kristina Zlateva, 3rd, 4th. Meng-Su Hung, I guess, is 2nd place, I should have said. And then looks like a bunch of Europeans in the semifinals or the quarterfinals. Alul Kabaroglu, Christina Tkech, Kelly Fisher, and Chinyu Cho.
Who was the top?
Awesome.
Has there been a U.S. women's player that finished in? I mean, I'm kind of feeling a little lack of representation here on the old red, white, and blue.
Well, that's kind of been the case for the U.S., hasn't it?
Allison won a tournament here about a month ago.
It's hard
Allison Fisher is not U.S.
Yeah, I know she's been living, but it's like, yeah, it's that's my point, Rob. But we have to start taking like, well, Shaw lives in New York now, so he's kind of represented. It's like you're kind of yeah.
We had
back home to visit once in a while.
Yep, Eleanor Cadala Manuel gets in the last 16, but
it's hard, man. I mean, I'm not. To be fair, like if I played this thing, I might not finish the top 16 of the women's. Like, trust me, I get it. It's tough. I'm not saying it's easy.
I think Caroline Powell has had the deepest recent run for a woman in one of these bigger pro Predator events, which I think is awesome, by the way, that they're even like focusing on and bringing like a world women's nine ball, this event. Caroline's had the deepest run. I think you'd probably look for somebody like a Jennifer Beretta, to make those runs. Outside of those two.
Yeah, we'll wait a couple of years. These junior women players are coming up.
Yeah, Sophia Mass and Savannah Easton are both getting a lot of experience, and they're very smart players, and they're 14 and 13 years old, so they got they're doing all the right things right now. So when they're 18 and 19, they'll be seasoned, solid competitors as they continue grow.
I mean, and Brianna Miller is actually back playing again, and maybe a lot of players don't know who she is, but Brianna Miller is an absolute.
She's a monster,
beast of a player. I mean,
when did she start playing? I remember. I don't want to be wrong on when I first heard of her, but when was her upcoming?
Probably when she was in Lindenwood. She dominated when she was at Lindenwood.
Yeah, when she was at Lindenwood, I was in college at her at the same time as her, and she was. She was winning like the women's, and like she was dropping like 3 frames in the entire tournament, playing 6-7 matches, and she was it's race to 8, I believe is what it was, and she was winning everything 8-0. The closest anybody ever got that I saw in like the 3 years that I was there was 8-2. And she wasn't playing against a ton of really top competition, but it doesn't matter if you're winning 8-0, 8-1 every single time.
Well,
but she had a brutal draw. I mean, she plays the eventual champion in the first round, and then she loses 2 rounds later to Fanyu Husan, who ended up losing to the eventual champion too. So it's like,
she's if she gets legit back into competing, she's a legit threat to be top 3 or 4 women in the U.S. I think Taylor Hansen too was at Lindenwood, and she would wrestle all the time with April Larson. They were back and forth.
Yep.
And Taylor's a JMO player too.
They're both from Minnesota. Yeah.
Yep.
Great players. So
Brianna Miller, if she's back playing and she's playing anywhere close to what her game is, she is, in my opinion, probably the second best women player in the country.
Behind her
immediately. I don't think that she's quite on Jennifer's level.
Beretta.
Yeah, but I mean, she is. I think her Fargo's like 660, 670, something like that. I mean, it's. But she hasn't played for like 6 or 7 years, so. But I think she's running a tour now. She's going to be running a tour in the Virginia area. So
yeah, she's getting back into it.
Yeah, well, let's just
so that's good.
To make sure any problems.
Yeah, I guess let's. Do we have anything else we want to talk about for the women's side of things? Good. Okay, then Rob, you can talk about your 3 cushion. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's going on out there in Vegas now. World Cup 3 cushion, and the best players in the world are playing in this. Minus, I think, Frederick Cadron is not in this event, but every other top player in the world is in it. Luis Vega from South America, he's not playing in it, I noticed either. But everybody else is there, and they're all seated. Of course, the top professionals, 16 of them. and they're playing the qualifying matches now. We've got Mike Miller and Freddie Lammers from Minnesota there. They just left yesterday, or this morning, maybe they left to go out there and watch the event. And Craig Powers, who I've mentioned before on the show, a top-notch three-cushion player and pool player, he's in the Hall of Fame here in Wisconsin, is out there, and he tried to qualify, and he missed by one qualifying for this World Cup. But he volunteered to ref, so he's going to be out there. If you watch the streams, you can go to Professor Q Ball, and on there he has a couple of links to, I believe, a couple different ways to watch. One of them, you can pick out 5 matches that are going on at the current time. They're live matches, and pick your favorite player and take a look at that. So that's going to be going on now for the next 5 days.
Sure. All right. Then I guess let's move on to the Predator World 10 Ball, which is getting underway literally as we speak. Francisco Sanchez Ruiz and Mickey Kraus are playing, and FSR just got his first win on the board. So it's 1-0 in favor of FSR.
And we can view that where, Nate?
Well, here's the bracket. I can put it out there for everybody. So here's the bracket for it. A couple of big matchups to begin with. It's kind of unfortunate for these two players, but Lee Van Corteza and Roberto Gomez draw each other first round. That's a great match to start out with, although I don't think that they agree. Daniel Gutenberger and Shane Van Boning. That is a pretty brutal opening draw for Shane. Daniel's not super well known, but he is a really, really great player.
Is this human rack, this tournament, or pattern rack, or magic rack?
That I guess I don't know, to be honest with you. The stream is up somewhere. I guess we'd be able to check that, but I would imagine that this is template, because I think that's what it's been in the past. You don't know, Ray?
Regular races to what?
I imagine it's probably a triangle rack.
7 until it gets down to so many. And
I think it's a race to 9.
9.
Yeah. Looking at the brackets, I guess a couple of other big matchups: Hoven Bustamante and Eklund Kachi. That's Eklund is a former champion. I believe he won this 2 years ago.
Okay, a little Chris posted where it's streamed.
Yeah. Edgy Geronimo and Jose Alberto Delgado. That's a great opening match. Ko Ping Chung and Sky Woodward. That's a pretty tough opening match for those two players.
Yeah, Max Lechner and Roland Garcia.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah, there's
action.
Victor Zieliński and Alex Pagulayan.
Oh, another brutal match. Alex is playing great.
In a tournament like this, I mean, there's just so many. I mean, it's an invite-only field. To get into this, you got to be just an absolute monster player to begin with. So, I guess everyone in this field is going to be pretty tough.
In a tournament?
What's that?
Have you ever played Alex in the tournament?
Alex, which Alex?
Pagulayan.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I've played Alex 1 pocket, Banks, and 10 ball. I don't think I've played him in a 9 ball event.
Really? Nice.
Yeah, he's done well. He's done well.
Promising up and comer.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough action, man. He really, gosh, Alex has had just such a good strike. I remember just every time I play him. I mean, the guy just always plays great. Playing him in the Banks. This is the last time I played him at Derby, and I mean, I'd be like, fighting in for my life, and I mean, there's a couple times, like twice, I had him down like 4-0, 4-1 on ball count. And he'd go for some like table length bank from like elevated off the end rail and just spear the thing one rail where he just strikes him so clean, and then he runs out on me from nowhere. And I'm just like, he just keeps doing it to me. And I'm like, well, good shooting, sir. So anyway, yeah, he's tortured me, man. If I had to play Alex for a living, well,
you'd probably be on a podcast.
Yeah. And then there's a level of players that are hitting them even better. It's just, I'll tell you what, man, looking at these brackets, it's kind of fatiguing when you think about like, I don't know, man. It's like feelings are feelings. You don't let them steer your career. You practice, you play your game, you show up, you fight. But like you look through those brackets and trying to visualize a road to get deep in one of these events, it's like it's if you're not like 22 and play it like missing once every day, it's hard to see a road, but you got to just stay focused on that little sliver. It's what it's like. I was thinking about it because it doesn't do any good to get discouraged or look at how tough it is. So it's almost like when you're shooting like a table length shot where you got to cut a ball table length where it's got like a little bit of a half pocket or less, where there's like balls blocking the pocket on both sides and you're cutting this ball table length. And it's like, well, you can look at the percentages and talk about how tough that shot is. But all you can really do is focus on that little sliver. And you got to just laser focus. Like that's the spot, and you can't really think about anything else. So it's easy when I see these brackets. It's kind of like looking at how tough that shot is, but then you just got to see that path through it and just stay focused on that one path that leads to victory. I don't know. I'll let you know how that works.
Yeah. All right. So I guess
good description.
I don't know. We can close out the podcast with some predictions. Who do you? Let's all pick 2 players who are looking at to win this World 10 Ball. It could be fun. Rob, you want to go first? Shane.
Yep.
And
another?
Yeah, we'll do 2. Why not?
Come back to me.
Come back to you. All right, Demetrius, what do you think?
Well, I'd like to pick some. I think we should do the thing where we pick a dark horse, kind of. You know what I mean? Because it's just more fun. So I think I think that for my dark horse, I'm torn between. I'll go with Mario He. Is he a favorite? Is he a dark horse or a favorite?
Well, he hasn't missed a semifinals in the last 25 years.
I'm gonna have some fun, and I'll pick Mario He, and then I'll go with Tyler Steyer. What if he popped this thing off?
Well, what do you think, Ray?
Francisco, just because I'd love for all discipline world champion. That'd be awesome. Sanchez Ruiz, and he's kind of habitualized winning at this point.
And you got a dark horse for us?
Come back to me. I'll think about it.
Come back to you. All right. Well, here's my. I'm gonna say Chang Jung-Lin. I like him. I don't know why I like him.
Is he in the? I didn't even know he was in the field. Gosh.
And for my dark horse, you know what? I think. Nope, I'm changing my. I want my friend. Wojtek Szewczyk's going to repeat, and my dark horse. I'm going to take. We've already said his name a couple times, but it wouldn't surprise me a bit if Daniel Maciol ends up getting there. I can see him getting there. I mean, he's been making some deep runs, so I'll say Daniel.
I didn't even shut it off.
I'll take Skyler.
Sky, all right, I like it. Demetrius, you already had your dark horse.
Yeah. So my dark horse was Tyler Steyer, and and then I'll pick Mario He.
Okay, Rob, what you got?
Well, I'm going to take Tuan for second one.
Could be a good one. He's made some deep runs, so.
Yeah, and there's no shootout in this. It's just straight.
Just a straight race.
Rotation.
There you go.
Yeah, just a straight. All right. Well, I guess with that, actually, Shane Van Boning's down 2-0 right now to Daniel Gutenberger. So maybe an upset in the making. Maybe
last Predator event, Gutenberger did. He was in there till almost the end.
Well, there's a match that's already done. Evan Lunda beat Stephen Holman 8-0.
Did he win or did he lose? Oh,
Evan
he won?
Lunda won. That's got to be a forfeit. I feel like that's got to be a forfeit. They've been playing for 17 minutes. You must have found a way to break the 10 ball over the corner.
Listen, if that wasn't a Jason Shaw match, that's an error.
So it's win or break. Race to 9, that'd be 2 minutes a game.
I would guess it's not win or break. I think that's a forfeit. It's got to be a forfeit.
That's got to be.
It's got to be. Yeah. All right. Well, with that, let's close it out for this week. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you all for jumping on the pod with me, Rob, Ray, and Demi. And we'll see everybody all next week.